Again, I'm old enough not to be overly surprised when I observe politicians lying. Indeed, I fancy I am something of a connoisseur of such mendacity, having listened over the years to successive prime ministers and party leaders tell the most outrageous and implausible lies. This tendency towards dishonesty and deception is not, of course, limited to any particular party, and I haven't noticed much difference between the number of falsehoods peddled by the Labour and Conservative parties. They've always been pretty evenly matched. That has now changed, though, and I'm hearing even dyed-in-the-wool Labour supporters, people who actually voted for Keir Starmer last month, gasping with disbelief at the way in which he has abandoned his promises of making gas and electricity bills lower. These were not just vague hints, but manifesto claims, and also specific promises that he would freeze energy bills or even cut £300 or £400 off our bills, and that the fall in the cost of gas and electricity would be breathtaking. That's the very word that he used at one point. On other occasions, Keir Starmer has promised to freeze the cost of energy bills for the winter. On June 28th, less than a week before the election, Keir Starmer put up on Labour's website a document bearing his signature and headed "My First Steps for Change." There were 6 of these, and number 4 was to set up Great British Energy. I give a link to this in the description to this video. Scroll down and you will see a specific promise to cut bills by £300 on average. Let me remind viewers that in addition to depriving 10 million pensioners of their winter fuel payment, Starmer has now increased energy bills for our homes by 10%, which works out around £150 a year for the average person. In other words, most pensioners this winter are likely to find that they must pay £400 or £500 a year more for gas and electricity than was the case before the election. Keir Starmer made a huge thing in the run-up to the election about how terrible it was that old people could not afford to pay their gas and electricity bills, and this too is still to be found on Labour's website, alongside the manifesto. The second link I give is to Labour's manifesto itself, and the idea of making Britain a clean energy superpower, as it's said. Scroll down, click on the link, scroll down, and you will find a video clip about an old age pensioner called Gary. It is headed, "I've never struggled this much to keep warm." In the video, this old guy says he's never struggled so much to keep his house warm and that he can only now afford to heat one room. He says that the energy prices go up by that much, it's ridiculous. Well, his very words. He goes on to say that he is supporting Labour because they'll give us cheaper energy and they will look after the vulnerable, the elderly and the disabled. These are his very words. He's supporting Labour because they'll give us cheaper energy and look after the elderly. Yes, they'll do that, apparently, by ensuring that the elderly pay another £400 or £500 for their electricity and gas this winter. Almost the first step taken by the new Labour government was to deprive 10 million pensioners of their winter fuel payments, which amount to between £200 and £300 each. As I say, even Labour supporters, people who voted for them, are suddenly realising that they've been lied to on an epic and heroic scale, making a major focus of their campaign concern old people and their struggle to pay energy bills, and then immediately raising the cost for that very group. They have deliberately picked on old people and made their heating less affordable. I think it fair to say that I've never in all my life seen any new Prime Minister backtrack quite so swiftly on his election pledges, and not only make it clear that he will not fulfil them, but then deliberately doing his best to make the situation for vulnerable people whose lives he promised to improve even worse than it was before. Simply marvellous.